Well, Adrianne Taylor, I am so glad to have you on the journey, Ruth, today. Thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. I have been so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So Adrianne and I met online and found out that we are both boy moms. And it was like, boy moms unite.
Unite. Yep.
We got to care for each other. And
yes.
it was like, yeah, we got to talk. We got to, have a conversation on the podcast. So Thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again, Courtney. So I am a mom of 5 boys, and
five. Wait, stop right there. 5 boys. Let's just let that sink in for everybody.
Can I have a moment?
Right.
No, I did not set out to have 5 boys. I'm the oldest of 6, and there were 5 girls and 1 boy. So I just assumed like, okay, that's easy. I mean, I could deal with the drama and all of that. And then I started having boys. I had 3 boys, and I found myself as a single mom. And I was like, whoa, how does a single mom raise these 3 boys? And that just felt very overwhelming. Then I got remarried and had 2 more boys, and everyone says like, oh, when are you going to try for your girl? And I'm like, well, that was 3, 4, and 5 so I never found out for boys 1 and 2 what I was having. And then by my 3rd, I'm like, God is definitely giving me a girl. So I'm going to go and get the ultrasound. And I cried, and the technician was like, that's weird. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Give me a minute. So but yeah, so mom of 5, my boys range in age. My youngest is 6 and my oldest is 25. So we are kind of all across the board.
Yeah.
When I got pregnant with Cash, who's the youngest, I had 1 entering high school. No, let me take 1 entering college. He was a freshman in college. 1 was in high school. 1 was in middle school, and 1 was just starting elementary school, and then a baby on the way. So
that's a lot of time in the car.
Spread. Yeah. So lots of sports, lots of testosterone and smelly things. I love essential oils because my house smells. So I'm from Michigan, so we have tons of snow and freezing, but when it is not freezing, I love to air out my house and just smell God's green earth because it doesn't smell so fresh in here all the time. But I'm just so thankful. I mean, they help me to be a better mom and to not just kind of get, stuck and self-centered in myself. Yeah. My first recommendation is to invest in Dollar Tree picture frames because they're going to get broken. And so instead of going and spending $20 or $30, first thing I tell a mom of boys is just invest in cheap ones, because then if they break it, they buy it, it's $1. My boys, if they wrestle and they break a door or a window, they have to buy it. They've bought 3 doors to date. So they're like, well, they're softer. If they would have don't put your fist through it trying to get your brother. So lots of wrestling.
They haven't upped the price to get like a solid wood door or something. So there's no way they can break it again.
In case they they have them priced. They know where to buy them. They have to put them in themselves. So that's my first bit of advice when we start out.
Well, that'll serve them when they're older or own a house and have to replace the door. They're like, this, I know how to do.
I got you. I know how to do this. This is cake.
And I love that advice about the picture frames. I have picture frames down my hallway, and my boys have both knocked one over. My brother has knocked one over.
Yeah, my husband, he's bought a couple. Yeah.
Yes.
Now I just have like a stack in the basement. And so then I'm like, hand $1. Now I've already pre-bought them. So I know what's going to happen, because I found myself getting angry and frustrated about silly things, and we always hear pick your battles. And so I thought, why am I getting so frustrated and angry about a picture frame? They're going to wrestle. God made them to be active and aggressive. And instead of trying to like tame that, do it in a positive way. I don't want them going out and beating up anyone on the street, but like, let's get this, settled at home. So when they do go out into the world, they know how to handle themselves and how to, I did that wrong. I broke that picture frame. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, and I do that with water bottles around here. My oldest cannot like keep a water bottle around for, I don't know, longer than a
Yeah.
couple weeks. And so I was buying them at Walmart and I resorted to buying them at the 99-cent store.
Yeah.
And now I just have a couple. And every time he loses one, he knows he has to go to his piggy bank,
Yeah.
get me they're $3. Get me his $3 and I'll give him a new one. And I was like,
well,
I'm
and
tired
that's
of paying
teaching them.
$15.
Well, yeah. And that's teaching them. I mean, isn't our whole role and job as a mom to train them so that when they go out into the world? And so all these little minuscule things that seem like they don't matter, they matter because now they are knowing, okay, if I break it, I buy it. If I lose it, I buy it. Like my mom and dad don't have money that just grows on trees and they can give me whatever. You know, like my 6-year-old, he would go to the store with my husband and be like, oh, can you buy me this toy? And he's like, oh, I don't have money. He goes, well, mom does. Ask mom, you know, like, so we're like, okay, we need to
Right.
And we didn't buy them toys every time we went to the stores. So that was weird. He just assumed like they're going to buy me whatever I want. So we're like, okay, we need to figure out something here.
They're like, well, you have lots of money. We've had that conversation. I'm like, well, okay, how can I put it that we have plenty of money, but we also live on a budget and a new toy is not in the budget every time we go. I actually like it when family gives my kids gift cards. I know sometimes people are like, don't give a gift card, but it's kind of fun. I'll save them throughout the year. Not on purpose. It's probably because I'm too lazy to take them to Target. Yeah, I forgot. Well, I think I went in November once and my husband's like, where'd we get those? I'm like, for Christmas last year. But it's so fun to be able to give them their gift cards. And then we get to go to Target or Walmart or wherever they're to and say, okay, you have $15. You have $15.
Yep.
You can buy whatever you want. And sometimes they buy what I consider to be closer to trash. Sure. But they had a lot of fun with it. And
that's what we started doing on vacations, because when my older boys were younger, how many times do you go somewhere and they beg for every stupid thing that as soon as you get home on vacation, it's amazing. Like this rock that, I mean, you could pick it up on the side of the road, but someone polished it and sold it for $10 and they just have to have it. And so what we started doing is, depending on how long the trip, say it's a week and we're going to Florida and all the things. And so we're like, okay, you each have $100. You can buy whatever you want on the trip. Now, if you want extra ice cream and it's not like a time when we're doing a family dessert, that's coming from your money. If you want to buy that rock, then that's what you're going to buy. When your money is done, your money is done. And oh my gosh, it was the most beautiful trip that we ever had, because we never worried about, we got to say no. We got to say no. I did decide that my husband is also going to get that $100 because of the things that he was buying. Like we still have Spider-Man ice cube trays we don't use, but he had to have them. And this like slime ball that sticks to the wall, it puts grease on my wall. So thanks. So you
don't have 5 boys. You have 6.
6.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he gets that $100 gift as well at the beginning of every trip. But that just saved us so much time, because then they were thinking about what they wanted to buy. We didn't have to say no. They knew this is our money. We can spend it however we want. Now, my oldest son, is very methodical and put tons of thought. Do I want this? Does this? My second son, who usually was the one who was always just spending and begging for everything, came back with money because he was like, that doesn't suit me. So now you don't want the rock. Now the rock seems dumb. But when I was buying that, the rock was the most important thing in your whole entire universe.
And we're throwing a fit about, I'm sure.
And ruining a whole day.
Yeah.
It was very important.
Now, I love that idea. What were the ages of your kids? Because like you can't necessarily do that. Hey, 2-year-old, here's $100. I mean, obviously.
So we would pretend, but at that time, that was the first time that we really did it. They were 12 and under. And the youngest one, he would kind of watch with the older boys. My 4th son didn't really play with toys, it was weird because when he was born, he had the 3 older brothers who were, there's a pretty big gap, 6-7 years. From him to the next one. And so he just did what the older boys did. So some of the things that he bought were similar. Now I still did set money aside just for my own, type of thing. But we bought like, I guess I'm big on the Dollar Tree. This episode is not sponsored by Dollar Tree. But we would buy like little things. And so if he was begging for something, I'd be like, oh my goodness, look at this brand new dollar store fan. And he would think it was the greatest thing. So for the younger kid, I pre-bought some of his stuff. He had no idea.
Okay.
But
Okay. The power of distraction.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that's a great tip because we are always trying to, make sure that we're not spending too much money. And then mom guilt is a thing.
Yeah.
So but if you've got this, you're basically giving them a budget is what you're doing. I remember I used to be a high school choir teacher. And I remember that the first time I not the first time, I had taken my choir kids on a trip and our hotel was right next to a Walmart. And of course, what does a parent do? But, you're going on this was this person's first trip without mom and dad. And we were only 2 hours away, so it was safe. And I got an email the next week that said, why did you allow my child to spend all of their money? I think it was like $100 or something on junk food. I go, I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah.
We did not send them money to go shopping. And basically we had like a 2-hour break. That's it. Like one 2-hour break.
That whole trip. Yeah.
That whole trip. And I said to the kids, you may stay at the hotel or you may go to Walmart next door, but you need to be back here. Like you can't cross these streets.
Yep.
And you have to be back here at this time. Well, apparently they'd gone on quite the shopping spree.
Oh my goodness.
So from that point on, when I sent out the letter to parents, I said, I will not be controlling your child's spending.
Yeah.
Please know that whatever you give them will not come home. If you give them $100, they will find a way to spend it. If you give them $500, they will find a way to spend it.
Oh yeah.
So please discuss this with your child and discuss your own boundaries. And it was like something you don't expect as a teacher. And I'm like, okay, this is a discussion I have to have with my own kids when they're old enough to go on trips on their own.
And that's the thing, like every time we learn something and we feel, and I'm saying this with air quotes, but we feel like we've messed up. I have started to switch that because like you said, the mom guilt is so real and that can weigh us down. So we're not living in the moment. We're living in this guilt of everything we've done wrong. And that list is high. That's like a load of laundry that never gets done because it's always there.
Yes.
And so taking what we feel like a failure and just turning that into a topic of discussion, turning it into a battle, of this is not a battle. This is what is going to be happening. And then all of a sudden it's just the way it is. Like my boys, it's just the way it is. Like, this is the amount of money. Now, I mean, the older ones, you have your own jobs. So now the thing is, I don't buy anything for you. I mean, family dinners when we go on vacation, things like that. I pay for the gas because I love all of us driving. They're like, can we just fly? I'm like, no, we're going to spend this 24 hours in the car together. It's going to be so fun.
You're that mom, not the one that's like, I'm not getting trapped in a car with my kids for 24 hours.
Nope, we're driving. We're driving.
I love it.
So so just using everything as a teachable moment, not only just for them, but for us as well. So
yeah. Now we're going to get to the mom guilt in just a second. And like, we're actually going to kind of dive into that a little bit, but you actually have a podcast.
I do.
Can you tell us about your podcast and, how you chose that title?
So it was a work in progress. And I say that because I love, like I said, my boys are this wide range. So new moms would be like, oh my gosh, I have, this thing is going on. Can you help me? And they just kept saying, you really need to blog about this or write a book about it or talk about it. And it was podcasting wasn't really on my radar. And then all of a sudden I just felt this nudge from God, like, you need to do this. I'm like, oh, no. You gave me the gift of gab, but I do not know how to even record something and have it. Like, where does it go? How do people listen? How do you even get it out there?
Yeah.
So I wanted to take from when I was a young mom, and you touched on this earlier, but when I was a young new mom, I was filled with guilt and the comparison. And so working through that and trying to move away from that and helping all these other moms, finally I was like, okay, I'm going to do this podcast. So my older boys really they're my tech guys.
Okay.
So they helped me get everything. And I knew I wanted something with boy mom in it. Not that you have to be a boy mom to listen. Everyone is welcome here. But where I'm speaking from, a lot of it is boy mom issues.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to be not just the boy mom. So what is going to ring? What kind of mom am I? And my aunt actually texted me and she was like, I feel like the word relentless is on my heart a lot in regards to you. Sorry for my throat.
Okay.
She's like, because you never give up. You are constantly fighting for your boys. You're their biggest advocate. And even though you had a lot to learn and you've come a long way, you have stayed relentless. And now I've just taken that and I want all moms to be relentless. And I want all moms to, no matter where you've come from, no matter how much, again, you feel like you have messed up, we are relentless. We've never given up, nor will we ever give up. I don't care how old my boys are. They will always be my boys, my babies. I will correct them if necessary. I will, in an adult way. Like, I'm not going to treat them like they're two, but if God lays it on my heart, you need to have a conversation with your son, then that's what I'm going to do. And so that is where the name was birthed from, and just a simple text of, this is the word that's on my heart. And as soon as I heard the Relentless Boy Mom, I was like, that's it. Yeah. So that's kind of what has just the past couple of years that has just evolved into, so much, and just fighting for other moms. Like, I get so passionate, and no, it doesn't have to be this way. And you don't have to be guilty. You don't have to live in that. And you don't have to look at other moms to tell you what you should be doing. That God puts it on our heart of, this is how you are to lead your kids and your family, not so much your family, like just alone, but just, this is what I want you to do. And so that has just become such a passion of mine.
So on the Relentless Boy Mom podcast, you guys actually have a tagline, which I love. And you say, you don't have to be a boy mom. You just have to be relentless.
Yep.
And I love that. I mean, I think that's a skill or a personality piece that can be so hard as a mom. Cause man, you get to these days where I think I had one yesterday where I was like so done, and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon, and I'm like, I just don't even know if I can make it through the rest of the day. But in general, as we're talking about through life, we have to stay relentless. We have to, these children are a gift to us. And so we have to continue to train them. We have to continue to think of, I feel like I have to be so creative in my discipline, like it can't just always be like yelling or spanking or, like sometimes the best discipline is the most creative. When my 4-year-old, I told him, go stand in the corner. And he did. And like, it was the corner right next to the front door, and a couple people came in and out, and he didn't look. I was like, why does this work?
Yeah.
But it works. So, but like, like being creative and then wanting to make sure that we're raising like productive human beings, and that, you have to be relentless. So I love that word, and I'm going to put that in my vocabulary, as a mom, because I think that's a really good idea. Now, you've talked about that comparison game, and I know for you it was like a real thing with your oldest sons, and for every mom on the planet, I'm pretty sure it's a thing. And the ones that don't feel like they struggle with it a lot, I feel like it's because they had already put like boundaries in place, or they had mentors or discipler moms around them that were like, okay, Let me give you a picture of what you're going to feel, what you're going to experience, and let me
Yep.
help you and give you a couple tools to push back against that.
Yeah.
Because none of us knows what we're doing when they hand us that little baby. And we
Yeah.
kind of look at that child and go, I am now responsible, you know? And so,
Yeah. Even if you read all the books, you
yes.
still are like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And your child is never exactly like any other child. And so because of that, the comparison game starts hard and starts early. So tell us
Mhm.
about your experience with your older kids.
So, like I said, I was the oldest of six. And so I thought when I got pregnant, Psh, I got this. This is going to be so easy. But I was more focused on I have to make sure I have all of the right things, and I just I want to bring him into a loving home. But I didn't think about, like you said, when he was handed to me and he was on my chest, and we had to induce labor 4 weeks early because he had stopped growing. So it was
Oh,
even
okay.
4 weeks. And I felt like, oh, wait, I need that extra 4 weeks.
Of
Like, I don't know what to
course.
do. I need, I went to a regular doctor's appointment. All of a sudden, they're like, so we're going to induce you today. And I'm like, can we wait
Oh,
till the
man.
morning so I can call my mom? Because she's 2.5 hours away. So she hurried up and drove up. And it immediately started because he weighed less than all the other babies in the nursery. I had a sister-in-law who was wonderful, and the people around me did not impose any comparison on me. I did it myself. There wasn't
Okay.
anyone, you do have a few people who are like, you need to do this and you need to do that. But for the most part, I was constantly looking at everybody like, what are they doing? What is their kid doing? My kid's not walking. My kid's not talking. Like Caleb, my oldest, did not talk until he was 2. And he'd say ball
Wow.
and mom. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with him. And then all of a sudden 2 hit and he has not shut up. And all the teachers are like, he talks too much. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you because
Right.
first of all, I'm his mom. But second of all, I was terrified his first 2 years of life that something was wrong because he wasn't talking like the other kid. He didn't crawl as soon as the other kid. He didn't walk, or I pushed him to do all of these things. And so instead of me enjoying him as a baby and just really soaking up that baby, when your kids are older, like my youngest is 6. And if I could just go back to that baby time where they don't talk
Yeah.
back or they don't do all these things and
Or they
just
just
soak
sit
that
cuddled
up.
in your arms and
Yes, and
don't
he
try
was
to climb out.
no, he was just such a cuddly baby. And, Caleb was very compliant, very complacent. You could tell him to stop crying and he would. He was just that type of kid that was just, I feel almost like the prodigal son's older brother, just did whatever was supposed to be done. And he was there. And I lost sight of who he was as a kid and as a person because I was so focused on what everyone else was doing. And all of a sudden, one day it hit, and it was when my third son was born. And I finally stopped and I was like, I need to stop because no matter what it is, do you breastfeed or do you bottle feed? Do you have a cesarean or natural? And, some of these things are not things in your control, but it starts immediately. You have to do this or this. And both sides are very adamant in why their
Yeah.
side is best.
Yeah.
And if we go into being a mom with that, it is overwhelming. And how many times do you want to just pull your hair out because you're like, I can't do what everyone says that I'm supposed to do. And both sides feel right and both sides feel wrong. And I don't know what to do. And so it was a very overwhelming time. And I still have moments of guilt. The enemy is really good at bringing up those past things and saying, you kind of sucked as a mom back then. Like, ooh, how are your kids going to turn out? How are you going to raise these strong men when look how much you messed up? And the first few months and years of their life are the most detrimental. And you were not really paying much attention to them. I mean, they were filled with love. They were amazing kids, but I started focusing. So then my focus went from comparison to the guilt. Well, then I'm doing the same thing. I'm still not giving my children the things that they need because now I'm sitting in this guilt. And being able to sit down with them and say, okay, I messed up. being honest about it. We have a lot of open conversations in this house. I wasn't raised in a home where we talked about things, and I was like, we have to stop. I want them to
Mm,
know I feel guilty, I feel bad, but I want to move forward.
yeah.
And some of the conversations, sometimes I go to my room and cry, maybe slam my door along the way, because if my feelings get hurt, but then I know, okay, so this is a trigger point. Now I need to work through this. And so, yeah, so that was definitely a time where I just did not cherish and enjoy being a mom 100%. I loved it,
Yeah.
but I didn't give him all of the time and love and attention that I should have, because I was constantly worried about what did everyone else think about me? What was everyone else's kids doing? How bad of a mom was I because my kid wasn't doing this? And it was so overwhelming. So,
So, did you have any other, like, I feel like sometimes I can get that way and I can start spinning.
mhm,
But then I'll talk to a friend or my husband and they'll say, why? And I realize I can't come up with like a reason
mhm, yeah,
other than, well, if I'm really honest, the reason why is because everyone else is doing it, or because
yeah,
I feel like that is what's expected.
mhm,
I feel like that's the, like just what I have to do in order to give my child the complete experience.
mhm,
But I do have a couple people that will counteract that. Did you
yeah.
have those people in your life when your kids were young?
Um, like I said, some of the people that I was comparing myself to didn't even really know.
Okay.
They I had some great friends. We had a great church community. Um, but just like you said, I did not talk about how I was feeling. I
Mm,
just, have that bubbly personality and have that I'm energized by being around people. And so I was happy and social and all, but inside the whole time is you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough.
yeah.
And even when I was a single mom, my boys were 7, 6, and 3. I joined a singles community at our church. We had moved out of the area into a different area, and I just needed friends. And all of a sudden it hit me, all of these friends are single. I have no moms to talk to who are saying you're doing a great job. What your
Yeah.
boys are doing is normal. I mean, some things aren't normal. Like my one son, I don't even know why I'm saying this, but one of my boys, a babysitter called and she's like, how do you discipline if Jake just peed on Corbin outside? And I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Can I call you back after I think about that? Like there's no verse in the Bible that tells you what to do about that. So
I
again,
just got a
always
text
learning.
from a friend of mine cheersing me with a picture, a selfie with her wine, and she said, "Things you never know you're going to
Yeah.
hear as a parent. Please don't pee on your brother."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that is a thing.
it is a thing.
That now we just, or I walked in one day, and this is my boys, they're older. I walked in, there was like our dog's dish, the water was all spilled out, the island was pushed up against the sink, there was a random sock in the garage. And I just learned and I came in, and all of my older boys were sitting in different parts of the living room, dripping sweat and breathing really hard. And I was like, anyone want dinner? Who is hungry? They had just gotten into it. Two of them had gotten into a huge fight. The middle son or the younger son broke it all up, tried to pick everything up, and they heard me coming in. And instead of like, Mom, she blah, 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 they just like all sat down and were calming them. I mean, but they were like, I wish I could have taken a picture, but I was like, okay. So I'm going to make some dinner. This is going to be great. You guys go shower or something. Like, I don't know what's happening, but
Oh
so
my gosh.
yeah, so there's just things that I never experienced that.
Yeah.
My sisters and I would like scream at each other, and then mom pulled up and we were like, so mom, how was your day? My throat hurts from screaming at my sister, but we weren't physical and throwing
Yeah.
each other around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I know. And I don't necessarily understand all of these things. Thankfully, my husband, he and his brother, they have a great relationship now.
mhm,
But they went through so many of these
yeah,
same stories that you're talking about, like fighting and then stopping as soon as their mom came in the room.
yeah, yeah.
So mom wouldn't know, even though like she's like, I knew.
Yeah, I'm not
But
dumb. And sometimes they'll
yeah.
say, do you want to know what? No,
Nope.
no, I do not. I do not. I have a
Yep.
perception of this situation. It sounds beautiful in my head. we're just going to leave it like that.
I do
So,
that with my 4
but
and 7-year-old. Do you want to know what he did? No.
nope.
Is anyone hurt? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there an emergency? No. Then I don't need to know. And
Yeah.
it is so funny to watch that child, like, I don't know what to do with that response because I was so ready to tattle on my brother. And
Right.
like
She's
they were
got to hear this.
yes. And now it's like they can't even say
Yeah.
anything else and they just turn around, like hang their head, turn around and walk
Yeah.
away. Like
That didn't
man.
go how I thought it would go.
Exactly.
No, but
Exactly.
that's, I mean, so many things. I don't know. It just, we could go on and on about all of the stories. I guess the thing that I'm bringing it back to is we need to be in community with other moms,
Oh, amen.
because knowing that and be able to share it. Like I said, I had a great community. We had a wonderful church. I had amazing friends, but nobody knew how I was feeling inside. And then when I joined the new church, when I had to leave my older boy's dad and it was just the four of us and I needed friends, I needed community, there weren't any other moms. And so I left hanging out with these amazing people, always feeling guilty that I'm a horrible mom. Well, there aren't any other moms in there that were saying, you're doing a great job. What your boys are doing is normal. What you are going through is normal. The mom guilt is normal. And here's how you can work through it. Here's what I did. I didn't have that for the longest time. And I think that is, besides all the other, my number one thing is this, my number one thing is this, the picture frames and all this. I have all of these like little things that I've learned along the way, but the thing that we need is community. We need community with other moms, and we need to be able to speak up and say how there are so many moms that are living with these different feelings and feel like they're the only mom and afraid to speak up. And that was me for so long, that I was afraid to speak the truth of things. And there's where the enemy steps in and he just lets those keep going, and that record just keeps playing. Well, the record, does anybody listen to records anymore? But
I do, but
well, it's coming back now. My son just bought a record, so yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I'm like, oh wow. But it just keeps playing and playing until we believe that lie so much, and it can't seem like an untruth. It seems because he takes something there's a little bit of truth to it and then spins it into something so out of control. And so community with other moms is something that is so important. So.
Yeah. And, here on the journey of Ruth, we talk about discipleship, and we talk about that we're not meant to live this life alone. We were created for community. And so it is important to have community around you. I do hear another side of that, and that is you needed to be honest with your community. So I think sometimes we can have, just like you said, you can have great community around you, but they can't help you with the things that you're struggling with unless you are being honest with them. And if you are, then they can speak specifically to your struggles or give you a call and say, hey, I know that you said that Tuesday nights are really difficult for you because you've got late pickup and work and sports and, dinner's usually a struggle. Can I bring you dinner this Tuesday night? And unless you're really honest with those struggles, people don't know how to help. They don't know how to pray, and they don't know how to encourage you. And so I love the idea that you're encouraging moms to not only have community, but to be honest with that community and let them help you.
Well, and so two things from you saying that is, number one, the ending of every podcast that I do says, go tell another mom that she's doing a great job. How often do we have a mom come to our head and we're like, oh, I should text her or call her or message her, and then we get busy in our life and we don't, and then we find out later she was going through something or whatever. I feel like God puts certain people in our minds at certain times, or we wake up in the middle of the night, or we're on a walk and someone comes to our mind. Stop and pray for them. Like, we never know what a prayer or a text or a phone call, how often have we gotten a text at just the right moment? Like yesterday I was journaling in the morning and praying like, God, I'm feeling like I'm not feeling you right now. I mean, I know that you're always here, but I need to feel that what I'm doing, this path that I'm on is given to me by you, that you are hearing it and I'm not just going on. A random mom who I've not talked to in a little while just texted and said, hey, I just want to let you know, like, you are doing an amazing job for not only your boys, but future generations. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm crying right now. And I was like, thank you, God. But then we need to be that for other people as well. If someone comes to our mind, text them immediately, message them immediately, and just say, hey, you're on my heart. I'm going to pray for you. What is something specific? And then the other part of what you said is when someone offers to us, can I help you?
Yeah.
What is our first response? No, I'm good. No, I got it. Because we got to be strong, right?
Oh, I'm the worst at that.
You know, especially like moms of boys, like, oh, you know, moms of boys, you guys are a whole new breed. Well, I am, but I still need help. But my big thing is I don't want anyone to think that I am weak. I need to be strong for my boys. I need to be strong for my husband. I need to be strong in this platform that God has given me. I can't show any weakness. So when someone reaches out to me, I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I don't need help. I don't need help with pickup or a dinner. So then what are we doing? We're not allowing them the blessing of encouraging us, because if we reach out to someone and they say, yes, oh my goodness, you came at the perfect time. This is an amazing thing. I would love it if you could do this. Don't we feel used by God and amazing? Yeah. But then we say no, and we're not giving someone else the opportunity to do that. And so, yes, being in community, being open and honest, saying that we need help, and then accepting the help. I think that is so huge, because if we are wanting to help other people and being that for them, we need to give them the opportunity as well.
Yeah, I love that reminder that we need to be vulnerable, and it's okay to be vulnerable with our community. And when someone offers to help, to allow that to help. My friends know that I'm not great at that. And some of them have just like resorted to, hey, I'm bringing dinner.
I'm doing it anyway.
Yes, basically. I'm already on my way to your house.
Right. Actually, I'm in your driveway.
Right.
So
right. Like I can come before I pick my kids up from school or after to drop it off. So which would you like? Like, it's fine with me, but I'm coming anyway. Do I need to leave it by your front door? Like, you know, I know that I'm not great at that, but I will always hop to go and help somebody else. You know, so I hear you. That like resounds like, hey, this is for you, Courtney, you know, like to remind us that we need to accept that help. And I think that community, it's just so critical. And I know that for me, it's something that was modeled for me growing up, having community and the importance of that. And my parents even placing community around us. And I want to do the same for my boys. Finding community, finding safe places for them to play, safe places for them to be honest. Even the way that my husband and I, the words, I have a question, or I need to talk about something, are taken very seriously in our home. Whatever we're doing stops. Because, you know, maybe the fifth I have a question in a row can get a little like, okay,
seriously,
the last four questions have been about platypuses, or, you know, I think probably question 5 is also going to be about a platypus. So I really need to make dinner. But, you know,
there boundaries in anything.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, you're folding laundry and a kid comes in and says, and with a very serious tone, I have a few questions. Laundry goes down and attention goes to that child, because we want to make sure that they know starting now, that we are a safe place to go. And my desire is, as they get older and maybe come to the point where there's some things they don't want to talk to us about, is to place men of God in their life to that they can go to and talk to if it's something that maybe they don't want to talk to me about, or maybe it's me. Maybe I'm their issue and they need a place to go and say, my mom, I feel like my mom's crazy right now and I need
Yeah.
to talk to somebody about this. I want them to have a safe place that's
Mhm.
not their friends and not social media,
Yeah.
to go to, and instead to have that wise person that's going to help them walk through those steps.
Mhm.
Let them know that I'm an angel here on earth, and just
Right.
kidding.
Exactly.
But
No,
you
they
know,
need to know. I
yeah, yeah,
remind mine every so
yeah,
often.
yeah. There you
Except
go.
my
See,
so my 6-year-old, you were talking about, I was thinking about last night, just getting my mind ready for today. And my 6-year-old was like, I love when I ask you questions and you go, and I was like,
just tilt your head to the
"Hmm."
side.
Well, and it was because I was like reading yesterday and I was trying to have like, I asked for like 15 minutes of quiet reading just so nobody ask questions, everybody just sit quietly. And he was asking me questions. And so I did that like, but
Yeah,
he was bringing it to me in a 6-year-old way of, I really like when you roll your eyes at me when I ask a question. I'm like,
great.
okay. And something about what you were saying too is years ago, my oldest son, we were having a texting battle, and this was before we were able to actually speak to each other. We had to work,
Okay.
up to it so we could have some like great texting conversations back and forth.
Okay.
And one of them that he had texted me was, yeah, well, I know you are perfect and you've done everything right, but I'm human. And
Oh.
I was like, huh. So here I am trying to be this perfect quote unquote mom, and I'm showing my boys I'm perfect and you will never be, no matter how hard you try.
Mm,
And so coming back to when we're sharing our honesty in our community, and with our children. Yes, there's some things our kids don't know, age appropriate things of things that we may struggle with, but we get to the point where I want my boys to know I'm not perfect. I
yeah.
am going to mess up. I do have to come back and apologize, because if I'm only showing them this perfection, that I'm human, so I'm not perfect, and they are trying to live up to this perfection that mom does it herself, but when I'm in that same situation, I can't do it myself, even though mom's losing her mind and screaming in her pillow every single night,
Right.
or taking an
Right.
hour shower because she's sobbing, which we
Gotta
do
love
need
those
moments
long
of that.
showers.
Those are
Do it.
fine. Those are
Yeah.
great. But I want my boys to see some moments of vulnerability, because I
Mhm.
want them to know you need community too. Just like you said, we
Yeah.
are able, when our kids are younger, to surround them with the people kind of
Mhm.
that we choose that have that positive, um,
Yeah.
you know, uh, the positive.
Influence or
Yes, thank
yeah.
you. The word was like gone. um, and so we can pick that now, but then
Yeah.
being able, when they're older, that they can look for that community and they can look for those influences, and that, okay,
Mhm.
mom wasn't perfect. She never pretended to me to be. I don't have to be perfect. I don't need to pretend to be either. So,
Yeah. 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 I mean, that community for our children, you're right, is so important, and protecting them. There's like shielding your kids, and then
mhm,
there's making them, to where like they never see
yeah,
anything of the outside world.
yeah,
And I know Jeff and I, we say, yes, we want to shield them from so
hmm,
many things. We were
yeah,
just having a discussion about bad words,
yeah,
because our son's almost 8, and we're getting to that point where like words are going to start trickling in with
yeah,
his friends. And we were like, do we just like let him experience them and then come and ask us,
yeah.
or do we share a list? you know?
So here's a word you're going to hear. I
Yeah,
don't normally say it, but yeah.
right.
And
Yeah.
and so there's some things that, we did tell our boys, if you hear, I'm saying this from day one, if you hear something, a phrase or a word that we don't say here, or that you haven't heard, come to us. Like, don't say it out in public or whatever. Come and say
Don't
to
try it
us.
out first.
Yeah, don't like, how does this roll off the tongue? Come to us first, and you will not be in trouble. We will
Hmm.
not, to
Hmm.
the best of our ability, be like,
Yeah.
we will explain. And so that opened up a lot too. And so
Mm.
now, so I homeschool my youngest two, and um the one just turned 13 a week ago. And so we're doing, the sex talks and reading, I researched some different like curriculum per se.
Hmm.
So we're reading some pretty well, now he's picking stuff up, even on simple shows. You're like, oh, wow, they really threw that in there. Cause he'll be like,
Oh,
does that mean, I'm like, yeah, they're
that's
joking
innuendo.
about
Yeah.
sex. Yeah. Sorry about that. And so he's like, I hear it all the time now. I'm like, I know it's everywhere, but being or he'll even say, what
Mm,
does that mean? And I will bluntly say what it is.
mhm.
And he's like, wow, that's not what I was expecting. But just giving them that safe place
Yeah.
so that they can share that. And there's going to be things that slip through the cracks that your son or my son is going to hear that we're like, whoa, I didn't expect that, but
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
I know. Well, okay. So everywhere are influences and voices speaking to our children, how
Mhm.
they should act, what they should say. And I know that a prayer for me is that I pray over my boys and I do
Mhm.
it when they're awake so they can hear like
Yeah.
that. What I'm praying for them is that they would be humble and kind and considerate, godly
Mhm.
men who would love God more than anything in life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I pray for that for them on a regular basis because I want them
Mhm.
to hear those words and I want them to desire to, because those are words we find in scripture. I want them to
Mhm.
desire to, you know, find those qualities within their life. You and I actually spoke when we had a phone call a couple days ago about raising godly,
Mhm.
manly men,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
Because that's also a hard thing too, is
Yeah.
that in some ways in our culture, being a manly man
Mhm.
can actually lead to our boys being made fun of
Yep.
or
You're
seen
a
in a negative,
sexist pig.
yeah, seen in a
Yeah.
negative light.
Mhm.
And I know that some of the choices that we've made as a family and as a couple, my husband has been looked down upon because
Mhm.
I stay home.
Mhm.
And my response has been, did you tell them that I chose to do that?
Right.
Like that was my choice because I could make more money from home than I could in
Mhm.
my
Yep.
position as a teacher. And he's like, they didn't really want to hear that. And
Mhm.
so how are you? Tell me how you are helping these boys that God has trusted you with to
Yep.
become men of God.
So, I mean, the number one thing, just like you said, is prayer. And
Mm.
I had each of my boys, I had gotten this from a prayer book that I read, and my husband, because he's one of them as well. And
Yeah.
my son is engaged. So I had his fiance. Everyone traced their hand, and I prayed about verses that I would pray over them. And so I laminated it, and on my fridge is everyone's hand with a verse. And so they see that verse
Mm.
that I pray for them every day. Every day, I pray a
Wow.
hedge of protection over them of what
Hmm.
they see, what they hear, that any evil that would want to come and, penetrate any part of their being is just faced with an angel with a sword that is like, nope,
That's
not
right.
today. You are
That's right.
gone. And I mean, if you watch, I don't know if I should say it, but like if you watch any like Disney show, look at the dads, and not only the dad, but the big brother. And I can point out countless shows
Mm.
that the dad and the big brother, they're made out to be idiots. They're made out to be dumb. They're
Mm.
made out to be, and I know that we want to empower. I'm a woman. I want to be a strong, empowered woman. So obviously I have nothing against that, but my husband is also strong and also masculine, and we are an amazing team. And
Hmm.
so in talking with my boys, we started talking about who are some of the men in the Bible that show masculinity. What does the Bible say about being masculine? And
Mm.
you, before you hit record and we prayed, you talked about David, and David was a man after God's own heart, made some big mistakes.
Yeah.
He sang before the Lord. He had like a heart for God, but he was also a warrior and went into battle and killed
Yeah.
Goliath, was not afraid of a giant. And so our men, our boys need to know that they can have all of these different characteristics, that you can be compassion but also a leader. You can have
Mm.
compassion but also be a leader, that you can lead your home, and it doesn't mean you're a dictator. It
Yeah.
means that you are standing before God and how you led your home. And so I want my boys to have empathy and compassion, but self-control. And I mean,
Mhm.
my first marriage ended because of an affair. And so I want them to I want to be proactive in their lives and what
Mm.
they're going to face instead of reactive. Now, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're going to live these perfect lives and do everything right. I'm
Right, because we've
not
already said perfection is not the goal,
I'm
right?
not, I'm not, like naive in that fact.
Yeah.
But so I started talking with my older boys and really brought in my 12-year-old at the time.
Mm.
And we started making a study that we could do together. And we like took men of the Bible,
Mhm.
whether so say one of the weeks is on courage. What men of the Bible showed courage or did not show courage at first, but God believed in them? Like Gideon, when he was first introduced to us in the Bible, was like hiding and like doing, making his wheat from the bread and like all that, or for whatever. They were
Yeah.
doing a whole thing back then. They didn't just go to the store and buy a loaf, they had to like make it. So he was
Right.
like hiding, and an angel came to him and was like, "Hello, warrior." And he's like, who, me? Like, so our boys are not always, especially if they're being fed on a daily basis, that you need a woman to give you the answers
Mm.
and you're kind of dumb. You don't like, I want my boys to be strong in the fact that God created them exactly how he created them, fearfully and wonderfully made. He did not make a
Mm.
mistake. He is not thrown off by what the world says. He's not like, oh shoot, I didn't plan for all of these things to happen. Now I don't know what to do. God knows. And so
Yeah.
we just made a study of men in the Bible who showed different characteristics of
Mm.
things that led to masculinity. Masculinity can be courage, it can be self control, it can be integrity, the armor of God. All of these different things wrap up into what we want our sons to be. And I just want them living it out on a daily basis. And
Mm.
so those are the things we talk about. So like you said, the number one thing is I pray over them, and they know, like you praying over your boys. My boys know exactly what I pray for them, a
Yeah.
hedge of protection, that God would guide each step. Like we have, or my older boys are in their 20s, so they're at that stage of, what does God want for me? I need a job, I need a career. God, give them one step today. Help them
Mm.
not to have the comparison of, this is what their friends are doing,
Yeah.
this is what, I already faced that comparison trap, and it's all around us. And so I just pray certain things over and over and over, and sometimes I feel like a broken record, like, God, that hedge, can you do it again? Like but
Rebuild it because it's fallen
yeah,
down.
it's falling down, and people are breaking through. But
Yeah.
and using the time when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm not a great sleeper. It's like I still have a newborn, and I'm like, oh, I should wake up and feed a baby. I haven't had a baby in 6 years. But so using that time, okay, who needs
Mm.
my prayer right now? Who needs me to pray for them right now? Who,
Yeah.
and so just, and if I don't feel anyone right then, or no one comes to my head, I pray for my husband, and then I go through each of my boys. And sometimes I fall asleep while I'm praying, but prayer is the number one thing, but being open and
Mm.
honest. And if we're watching a show with our kids, showing like, is that really a God honoring attitude? Is that really something that how God created men to be? And so I know that was like a really long answer, but as you
No,
can
that's
tell, I'm
great.
very passionate because I
Yeah.
want my boys to lead their home. I want
Mhm.
that, whether God gives them a wife or not, whether God gives them children or not, I want them to be leaders, and I want them to be strong in who they are, and
Mhm.
knowing that God created them to be a man, and there
Mhm.
is nothing wrong with it. Now, don't be a jerk, obviously, but, and I'll tell them, I don't know if I
Yeah.
told you or not, like my oldest son, I was noticing some things. This was a couple years ago, and I just said, I need to talk to you. So he like comes over and goes in my room and closes the door. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, now, okay. I was ready to wait for a minute, but okay. And so I said, so I worded that wrong. This is not a conversation. I have some things on my heart, 3 things I'm going to bring to you today. I don't want you to rebuttal. I don't want you to talk back and say, well, this is why, this is why. I said, I want to bring them to you. I'm going to think about it. We'll pray about it. And then you can come back and have a conversation. So
Mhm.
sometimes
Yeah.
we need to have conversations, or we're going to have a one-to-one talk. Like I
Yeah.
talk, you listen, because we need to also allow that. We want them to sit and listen for God too. If we're constantly back and forth all the time, we're not teaching them like, okay, God may be speaking to you, but you're not pausing to hear what he has to say. Now I'm horrible at that as well. I'm like, God, I have 5 seconds that
Right.
I can be quiet and not have anything get into my thoughts. So if you could tell me real quick, that would be great.
Okay, you
But
didn't. I guess you have nothing to say to me.
right. Okay,
Great.
I'm good. I'm going to go do my next task.
Well, I love that idea of talking with your kids, and purposely using scripture
Mhm.
as an example.
Yep.
And I know that's something that my parents did with us was family Bible time, and then asking us like, what did you hear in this?
Mhm.
And the option of I didn't hear anything, that wasn't an option.
Right.
But instead, like saying, okay, let's look at this example that's been set for us, and what can we learn from this?
Mhm.
My hope is that the boys are taking these things and applying them, though maybe that doesn't always happen. But now you can go back. You have a place to go back
Yeah.
to and say, let's go back to, I know you heard when we were talking about Gideon, and because you said, in our family time, you said, well, this is what I heard. So I know you heard it. Today, we need to put that into action.
Yeah.
And this is maybe how you should have responded. And sometimes it can feel so trite to say, well, let's go look to the Bible.
Yeah.
But we have so many good stories that, now people are turning into or for years have turned into movies, right? Because they are, the stories are so good and so full. That's one of the reasons why I love the Old Testament. And I say, don't skip over it. There is some crazy stuff in there. It's like, did you know that a lady jammed a tent stake through a guy's head?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. So we have
what?
3 or 4 different children's Bibles because they all
Okay.
hit on different things. And so as part of our morning story time, I read from the children's Bible. And then sometimes I'm like, James, can you look up in your Bible? Look up, we're reading about Elisha. And so I'm like, can you look up 1 Kings chapter 4? Because it's talking about some loaves in here. And he's like, oh, this is like when Jesus fed the 5,000 with and I'm like, great comparison. But
yeah.
So we're looking at this picture Bible for my 6-year-old, but then we're reading from God's word for the older one and bringing them together. And the thing that I always encourage moms is, even sometimes when we're reading the word every day, sometimes it feels like that was a dud of a Bible time. Like nobody got anything.
Yeah.
God's word does not fall void. And there are going to be times where even if we don't bring it up, there's going to be a time where one of our boys are going to be like, oh, I remember reading about that before. I remember about that in the Bible, or I remember that Bible verse.
Is that in the Bible? I've heard that before.
Yeah.
Did it come
Is that
from the Bible?
for real? Or like something else that I do with my 13-year-old, the 6-year-old, we don't do this as much because his brain is still learning what is truth and what, but having my 13-year-old dissect, and we listen or watch some different news things or things that may not be of the Bible. Like I'll have them watch a TED talk from an atheist, and you need to pick out, because the enemy is very good at what he does. And like I said earlier, he takes little half truths and then half lies and makes them into this truth. I want my boys to be able to pick out what the lie is and be able to, the devil is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he wants to devour us. And he does not want my boys to be strong men that lead their family. He doesn't want our boys, our children, to be able to know what is from God and what is not from God. And so I sometimes will play things, appropriate, not like inappropriate things, but be like, okay, I want you to pick out, is this something that is from God or not? Because I want him, when he goes out in the world, to be able to be like, no, this isn't right. What they're saying is not true. And
so many, the statistics say that there's a large percentage of Christian children who, when they go out of their home and go to college, they walk away from the church first and then their faith. And part of it is, and I had a conversation with a woman who does college ministry, and I said, what do you wish college students knew before they came to you? And she said, I wish they knew what they believed and why they believed it. Because that is where a lot of the questions and the struggles start to happen, is that they aren't secure in what they believe and know the reason why they believe it. And so when they get to college, someone, an atheist or whatever, challenges them and they go, I don't know. Maybe that is true.
My mom said I was supposed to not believe that, or I
heard it at a lock-in once. Yeah. Like,
at Bible camp, I walked forward because it sounded great and the song was playing. So yeah, like,
and the cute guy went up with me. Not that anyone's ever done that, or
me neither. No.
Yeah, never.
None of my
no, I did.
Big actually, moments at camp were because of a cute boy.
5. I was 5 when I came to know Christ. And the reason why I even asked my parents was because a cute boy got baptized. I was 5.
Yeah.
Boy crazy at 5. But hey, here I am, you know.
I mean, whatever. But
I think you're setting your boys up for success when you, or your children. So this is not just a boy mom thing, right?
All moms welcome here.
That's right. You're setting your children up for success when you help them to know why. And when you do these things that they may not think are great or cool, right? Yep. But what they don't know is that you're helping them to have that solid foundation. So when someone comes in with a jackhammer in college and tries to destroy that foundation, they can say, no, I actually know what I stand on and why I stand on it. And they can remain faithful. And so I love that you're giving your children that foundation.
Yeah. And that's what I tell James. I always put it back on him. Well, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this? What does it mean to, you know, we're talking about all these different religions. Do they believe in God? I mean, and yes, I mean, the verse of the Bible that talks about, you know, even the demons believe in God and they're afraid of him. So do they believe that Jesus came and died on the cross and rose again for our sins, and that we can't get to heaven without him? So just giving him a little bit of the salvation walk as we're talking, so that he can pick that out. And, you know, we just studied the Reformation for history, and the past couple of months, we've put our science book and history book aside, and we've just kind of gone off the rails on different things because like I said, every morning I pray, like, what do my boys need to know? Yes, you know, when you're in traditional school, you're in this class and this class and this class, and you have to know this, and state, you know, requirements are this, but God, what do you want my boys to know right now? And I feel if we are constantly praying that, God shows us and brings us conversations, and he gives us the wisdom to know. And we can't be afraid to be like, that's a great question. I honestly don't know that. Let's look that up together. Because sometimes my boys will ask questions and I'm like, I don't know. I just have been told that my whole life. I went to camp and heard it. And
that's right.
So it's helping me. Like, we shouldn't be afraid and embarrassed to be like, I honestly don't know. That's just what I've always been told. So let's look it up together. So,
and your kids will know at that point that it's okay not to know.
Yeah.
And then you especially as they get older, you walk them through the resources that you used to find. Here's what I trust to give me the truth. So this book, this website, this you know, speaker, or this pastor, whatever, this is what I trust. And so then they're going to see, and then maybe it comes to a point where now they can look in those resources themselves and then come and tell you what they found.
And that's what I'll do. The older ones, especially, I'll be like, if you find that out, can you send it to me? Or I'll listen to a great podcast and I'll be like, I don't know if this sounds silly to you, but your name was coming to my mind.
That's right.
As I was listening to this. And, you know, even with my oldest son's fiance, I'll be like, I was just thinking about you and wanted to send this to you. And who knows, you know, I always just pray and just be like, God, I know that it's not going to fall void on them, even if I'm not seeing anything right now, not being frustrated and give up. There's that relentless part again. No matter what is happening, we're still just being relentless and showing God to our boys and our children. And sometimes in the face of, I don't know it. I am going to try and figure it out, but I'm not going to stop. I'm never going to stop learning and growing and changing until the day God calls me home. I'm never going to be done. I'm never, who I was a year ago is not who I am today.
Amen.
And who I am today is not who I'm going to be next year. And we need to not be so focused on, well, I know it, and so I'm good, or I don't know it, so I'm bad, or, whatever. So.
Man, I think you and I could probably sit here and talk about this all day long. That's
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
This podcast will now be 3 hours long. Just kidding. No, actually, so you shared a little bit at the very beginning, but I wanted to know your best mom advice, either that you have, or maybe that people have shared on your podcast and you're like, oh, I took this and I ran with it.
Oh my goodness. So many. So, well, okay. So I guess here is the thing, is that even though we all look different and we all, some of us have just boys, just girls, boys and girls, and whatever it is, we're all feeling the same. The heart of us is all the same. And I guess just going back to that community and being
I thought you were going to say
honest.
just going back to the dollar store, but
well, that too. I mean, again, this episode is not sponsored by the Dollar Tree, but it should be if you want to. but just being open and knowing that we are all struggling with something, that a picture, we can go on social media and see this beautiful picture, and we can see 15-second video clips of how cute someone's kid is, but we don't know what is before the picture or after the picture, before the video or after the video, or what is in that mom's heart who is acting like she has got it all together. She has the perfect home. She has the perfect everything. All in our hearts, we're all just wanting to give the best to our children and all feeling like failures. I don't think that I have ever met a mom, no matter how well put together she looks, who feels that she has it all together. I mean, the days when my hair is on point and my makeup is beautiful are probably the days I'm struggling the most on the inside. I may look great on the outside, but on the inside, God, I need you. I cannot do this one more second. The enemy has a stronghold in my mind and is telling me that I'm the worst mom ever, and that look at all my failures and bringing them, and my marriage has failed, or my kid has gone astray, or, whatever it is, that we're all struggling with something on the inside. And to be able to talk to other people and share, and to always take everything. You asked for one thing, I have 10. But to always take everything that we learned from the past, or that we failed or messed up, and have it as a learning point for now, and to not cling to the negative part of it, but to make sure that we are using it to change. Like I said, we're never done learning or growing. And so taking how we failed and messed up in the past and using it as a teaching moment, and then share it with other people so that they can learn, and that other people can be like, oh my goodness, someone else feels that way too. So so many things. Now I'm getting all sweaty and worked up, and my pits are sweaty.
Well, you mentioned the pictures.
Yeah.
And do you ever look at pictures of moms that have like white kitchen cabinets and white countertops and white sofas and white walls and think that'd be brown in a second?
I've been to those houses, and do you want to know what happened at that mom's house who had the fluffy white couch and the fluffy white carpet? You wanted to dig your bare feet into it. It was beautiful, and lay on it and roll around. It was great. My kid decided to fall and smash his head clean wide open, and he fell so hard into their end table, his skin folded in, and then all of a sudden the blood was like, psh, and just went everywhere, and everyone's screaming. And this mom with this picture perfect house, before I got there, ran and got this big fluffy white towel, and she's like, here. I'm like, that this is going to stain there. It's okay, I'll buy a new one. And put it on. I mean, it soaked it up. There was blood everywhere. So I'm like, thank you for having us come to your beautiful home. I know that our welcome will never be asked again, but
we'll do all of the play dates at my house from now on. Thank you though.
I have a sign when you walk in my door that says, pardon the mess, but we live here. Because it looks nice for anyone who can see around me. You can't see what's on the other side of the camera. So
it's like that new Instagram trend, which is like,
push the face.
well, no, it's like, just so you know, and you're scanning this perfectly clean house. It's like, Instagram is not real life. And when it comes back, it's like the before shot. It's like, look what I did today, but look what it looked like beforehand. Like, thank you. Or those influencers that are like honest, or the bloggers that are like, look at this beautiful room. Look at everything. Here's all of the things I want to show you. Can I just show you this though? And they turn around and they've basically taken all of the junk out and put it over on the other side of the room.
Okay. And so you just said what we have been talking about this whole time is those influencers are being honest with what is really happening.
Right.
And so what makes us think that we are not as important, that we can't be honest with however it is that we're feeling? So absolutely.
Because they're saying, look, these pictures, it's not real life. It's just my job.
They're going to click. You want it to look pretty because that's what you're going to click on. Nobody's going to click on the messy house but it's lived in.
Are you sure? I was really hoping.
Like, my husband's like, we need to get the walls like re-drywalled and repainted. And I'm like, yeah, in 20 years when our boys are all moved out, we're not doing that right now. I know. I'm gonna be like, don't. Like, I have an aunt. Sorry, I know everybody. You guys are being great. Okay, last story. I promise. This is my last story. Get a cup of coffee, pause, and come back.
Come back.
My aunt is she's loves diamonds and pink and just all the beautiful things. And she was coming for a visit from California. So I'm like cleaning the carpets. This carpet won't get cleaned. We need all new carpet. Get rid of all the beds. We need everything new. And so I'm like, okay, everything's looking good. Everything has been scrubbed in the walls. And my boys played basketball in the house and shattered our light fixture the day before she came. And I was like, it's still broken. What's the point of even fixing it? Right. So she came and she's like, oh, your house. And I'm like, you don't even know. Don't look in those closets. Don't look up at the ceiling. So,
well, we just got a brand new set of appliances because we renovated our kitchen, and we got, for the first time, we've been married for 10 years. We've never had a new fridge. We've never paid for a fridge, actually.
Right.
And we've had 3 before this one. One would break and we'd be like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And someone would be like, I have an extra one. You want this? I have an extra. And so God always provided. I really see it as God's provision. New washers and dryers or fridges. Well, for the first time in our life, we were in a place where we could like do a big renovation. So we renovated our kitchen and we got new appliances, shiny stainless steel appliances. And the fridge, we actually got one and it had a dent in it. And so they said, we'll bring you another one. They brought that one. They took it off the truck. They did not put it in my house. Took it off the truck. It had a dent in it. We rejected it. Finally came a third one. Finally, no dents. And so they brought it into the house and it looks so nice, so shiny. 2 weeks later, there's a big old dent in the bottom dessert or freezer drawer.
You probably have the same one as us. we had a beautiful magnet someone had given us, and I didn't realize that it was scratching it. So from the top, like all the way on that first side where you open it, just this huge scratch.
Huge scratch.
So all of our prayer hands are right over all those scratches.
Just cover it with something meaningful and no one will notice.
Something beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we have one question that we ask everyone. Okay. To end our podcast. And that is, who is it that has helped you along in your journey?
Oh my goodness. I mean, God.
Yeah.
For number one. But I feel like being able to meet other moms have just been such an encouragement. Other moms who, I'm able to have other moms on my podcast to share their story, whether it's something that I have been through or not. And that has been such an encouragement for me to keep going and sharing other people's stories. Honestly, this is going to sound silly, but my husband is such a strong man to put up with such a strong woman. Sometimes he'll be like, can you just not get arrested for speaking your mind so much? Like that would be my only thing. I want to keep my job, just, but, and not letting me get away with like a negative attitude or behavior. And,
Yeah.
so many times I want to sink into, well, I deserve to act mad today because
Yeah.
you didn't do what I needed you to do or something. And so, so he's another person.
Yeah.
You always ask me like one question and then I give you 10
It's okay. You're not the
like
only
long
one.
answers. And then probably the two that I would think, I mean, there's so many names of people, but the two that have really just really stuck out to me, the aunt that I told you who, came, she's just always so encouraging and sending random texts of you're doing a great job and I'm so proud of you.
Uh-huh.
And I have a grandma who passed away years ago when I was in high school. She had 6 kids and just really instilled a love of reading, a love of God, a love of children and grandchildren. And so a lot of what I do and who I am, I just want to be like her.
Yeah.
And I want how I think of her to be how my children and my grandchildren one day think of me, as just a matriarch of love and compassion and, someone who loved God. And so she would probably be the number one thing, but the list is long. So
You talked about that community of moms that's so important to you, and you talked about it earlier, and you talked about being single and being in a singles group and realizing there weren't any moms around you. I have heard this before, especially from younger women that I know of that are in a place where they are married and have kids, or maybe are single and have a child, but all of their friends don't have children yet. And it's really hard because they're like, I'm not the same. And I don't, my friends don't understand when they call on a Friday night and I can't go because I have to find someone to watch my child, and I don't have anyone like that in my life. Where do you suggest they go and find that mom community?
So, I mean, that resonates because I did lose friends who expected something of me that I just could not give. And I was at that crossroads of, I really want to keep this friendship because I love them. They're amazing friends and we have great time. But I also, my boys are a priority. And so something that I did is we had lived in a community where the moms or dads, would walk their kids to school and then stand outside and drink coffee. And I know not every community is like that, but through sports, my son plays sports and I try to make sure that I go and talk to other moms, and I always look for the mom sitting by herself. And now maybe she is an introvert and is like, oh my goodness, here she comes again. She thinks that I want her to talk to me. So sometimes that happens, but like I said, we're all the same on the inside. And so I look for the mom who is sitting by herself and I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? Now, sometimes I want to like put on headphones and read a book. Like I don't have the headphones on, but it's just my way of like, please, I just need a moment of peace and quiet. But whenever our kids are involved in something, looking for the moms there because their kids are involved in the same thing, and starting those conversations and getting involved in a church and finding, one of the things that we pray for James is an amazing youth group that he can be a part of. And what are some of the other moms that are involved in that? And like I said, I homeschool. And so finding other homeschool moms. And so whatever it is that where that stage of your life is right now, find people that are in that same stage, because then no one's okay, we got to rush off to basketball. Oh, so do I. Meet you there. Or, I'm struggling with homeschooling right now. Me too. Let's, swap days or something. So finding people in the same stage of life. And honestly, I know social media, we have to use a filter on that. And anytime that you're following someone or in a group where you're just feeling negative about it, those are unfollow them or don't be a part of that group. But social media can be a beautiful community of people that are like-minded. And, I have a Facebook group called the Relentless Boy Mom. And so just finding a community that you can be a part of where you can be open and honest. And I just think whatever age or stage, and my boys are I mean, 25 to 6. That's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
different ages and stages, but just making sure that we are not doing it alone, because in those alone moments, that's when I find for me that the enemy is just like, oh, look at, you don't have friends. You're unworthy. You're not good enough. And then it just starts that roller coaster all over
Yes.
again. So
Yes. Oh, well, I think that's great advice. I think, yeah, and I'm sure it's advice that's a little bit harder for those that are introverts. Like you mentioned, I'm an extrovert. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll go meet new people,
Yeah, whatever.
but finding those online communities is maybe a good place to start. If you are someone who, struggles with, talking to new people, extrovert or introvert can be that way.
And you don't have to have this huge hundreds of friends.
Yeah.
I mean, just having a couple of people that you can share life with, and you don't have to talk every single day.
In fact, that's probably even better, because then you can be honest with them and they can be honest with you.
Yeah.
Where if you have 100 friends, you can only get an inch deep with them, and you're not able to really, I agree with that. So thank you for the tips and the laughs and the stories that you shared with us today. I really do appreciate it. And
yes, thank
how
you.
can we find your Relentless Boy Mom podcast?
So it's on all platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts. It's just type in the Relentless Boy Mom, and there's a picture of me with 5 boys, and they're pushing each other because no picture is perfect. And so I love the pictures. Like my boys, I was a photographer for years. So my boys know, like, boom, we just get into a picture. Everybody knows where they stand. But then there are the times where someone's, like, pushing someone, it just happens. So that is my picture. But so you can find that Relentless Boy Mom. I'm on Instagram as Adrianne_joyful, because my middle name is Joy, but I'm trying to find joy in all the moments of life. Adrianne Joy Taylor on Facebook, and the Relentless Boy Mom group. And just, I'm trying to, I have all my notifications off for things because I want to be present with my boys, but I do check in because I want to be a part of the community and encourage other moms, but then get encouragement as well. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything you shared.
Absolutely. Thank you.